everybody, it's Eggplant Evelyn and I'm here with Food Literacy Center, and today we are going to continue our series of veggie basics, and today we are going to talk about cactus or nopales as I like to call them. So you may have seen some recipes or maybe heard about your friends eating nopales, maybe with tacos or salsa, and maybe you're curious about how you can go about incorporating this delicious veggie into your everyday meals. And so we're gonna go over some of those basics so that you can be a food adventurer and try nopales for the first time. So today we are going to start by when this vegetable is in season. Nopales are usually in season from spring to fall. Especially in the spring, that's when all the new cactus petals start coming out and you can start harvesting them. You should be able to find these nopales at really any local grocery store or any large grocery store that you go to. You should be able to find nopales. They're usually in the refrigerated section with the produce, and they can come in a variety of different ways. So one way they can come is already cleaned and cut for you, so it's easy for you to use. These are already cleaned and cut, and sometimes they come in a plastic bag in the refrigerated section, just ready for you to grab them and incorporate them into your meals. Other times you will find the larger paddles with the spikes or the spines still on. So this is our paddle, and it still has some of the spikes and spines on. So we're gonna go over how you clean this. It's pretty simple. And another way you can find them is partially cleaned, but still the full paddle. So I have another one here, and a tip is I'm not handling this vegetable yet with my bare hands. I'm using some tongs, or actually my little towel drop. Sometimes when I'm at home, I just use a little dish towel and I fold it to be able to handle the paddle so I can grab them like this if I don't have tongs. So that's another thing you can do. But this cactus paddle that we got from a grocery store is partially cleaned. The spikes are mainly gone, but we're gonna go ahead and clean it a little bit more. So those are some ways you can find it. You can also find these when they're in season at the farmer's market. And usually at the farmer's market, they will be cleaned and have the spikes removed, so it is easier for you to handle. And one tip for your cash register, when you get to the cash register, let them know you have some cactus with you so they don't go and grab it with their hands. Just be conscious, because you have to put these in little plastic bags, and at the grocery store, if they still have the spikes on them, you don't want to be getting those spikes in your hands or anybody else's hands. You can also already find these pre-cut. Sometimes you can find these already pre-cut, prepared in jars. That's usually at most Latin grocery stores. You can find them already prepared and you can add them to your meals. Very little prep. So how do you go about selecting a cactus paddle for your first time? My general rule of thumb is you don't choose a cactus paddle any larger than your hand, and if it is a little bit larger, you can cut it to size. You want to get the smaller paddles because they are more tender versus the larger paddles that are a little bit more woodsy and fibrous. So this is a good cactus paddle. It's roughly about the size of my hand. I am going to cut the ends off a little bit so you can see. It's a nice bright green color. Also, that's something you want to take into account. You don't want a dull green color. You want a bright green color. This one I also selected at the grocery store. It's a little bit bigger. If I were to prepare this, I would probably cut off the bottom portion. And this is still a good size. It's a little bit thin, which is nice. Here, if you have a friend who has a cactus tree and you think that you can just go out and pick a cactus, you want to be very careful. This is a very woodsy. This is not something that we would cook with. This is too thick. It's too fibrous, so you really want those smaller, more tender cactus paddles. So this is one way that you can select There's also some different varieties of cactus paddles or nopales. We have nopales. It's the cactus. This is a nopal, and this is the edible cactus that we can try. There's also a Luther Burbank spineless nopal, and this variety is a little bit more rare and harder to find, but it's mainly available in Northern California. So if you are able to find those are a little bit nicer because they don't have spines, they're spineless, so they're a little bit easier to handle. And let's go on preparing our cactus paddle. So one thing I like to do before I start working with my cactus is I soak it in some water. And I might just do this for a few minutes just before I start working with it. It does a few things. It helps clean the cactus paddle, but I also think it also helps rehydrate it if it's been dehydrated a little bit. So I just like to stick it in a little bit of water, rinses it off, it hydrates it a little bit more, and that's nice. I'm gonna take a towel as I handle my cactus. I'll move this bowl out of the way so you guys can have a better view. And I'm gonna take a small paring knife. So kids, if you're handling this, I would suggest that you have an adult help you or have an adult handle the cactus paddle and you can watch. We're gonna cut the ends of our cactus paddle off. So just along the ends. It doesn't have to be super neat. I'm just taking the edges off. So here's one. And I'm gonna go around. If I was working with a cactus paddle that was a little bit bigger, I might go a little bit more in to make it a little bit smaller and just get that nice tender part. I'm going to cut off this end right here, kind of right where it starts to get a little bit thick. You can see there's a difference in this thickness and the rest of the cactus paddle. So I'm gonna go ahead and put this off to the side. Also, when you're preparing this in your kitchen, be very careful if you have a cactus paddle with a lot of spikes. They can go everywhere, so make sure that you're using your towel and you shake it out afterwards outside and wash it. You don't want to reuse it because it can still have some of those little fibers inside that get stuck to your fingers or your cutting board. You don't want to put another vegetable on this cutting board afterwards and start cutting because you might have some of those spikes. So make sure you, after you're done with your cactus paddle, you wash and you rinse everything off and you get it clean. That way you don't have spikes in your other food. So now we have our cactus paddle. It's a little bit smaller. I've taken the edges off. And we have all of these little spots. So this one is a nice cleaned one, but it still has these small spots on it that I want to take off. And if it had spikes on it, I would handle it much more carefully. But you can just take your paring knife, put it on its side, and I just do a little back and forth sawing motion along the side of the cactus paddle. And like I said, if you're handling this at home with spikes, be sure that you're being very careful, you're going slow. You definitely don't want to rush this process. It's kind of the most important part, making sure that your cactus paddle is cleaned. Once it's cleaned, you can chop it up into any size that you want, slices, or you can grill it up as a whole cactus paddle, but you want to make sure it's cleaned. We don't want any spikes. So you can see I'm just going back and forth. I kind of also like to just brush everything off, and I can turn it around for these ends, and I'm just taking all these little ends off. Like I said, this one was already partially cut, so it's a little bit easier and faster for me to go through. But if you had one with spikes on it, I have one right here with spikes on it, it just takes a little bit longer to clean. So as you see, most of these little spots are removed. I'm going to do the other end. And I'm just going to go ahead and do that saw motion back and forth. I want to get as much off as I can. I don't want any surprise spikes. And if you want to prepare this ahead of time, you can. You can cut and clean your nopal and keep it in a plastic bag in the fridge for about a week. You can also prepare these if you have already grilled them up. You can freeze them also, or if you boil them. There's different ways we can prepare this. So here's this. And I am going to re-dip this in my bowl, but what you can do at home is just rinse off your paddle once you're done cleaning it. Just want to get everything, all the excess off. I'm going to move this to the side. Like I said, we kind of want a clean surface when we're working with this. Let me rinse this off real quick. And we have our cleaned nopal that we're ready to cook with. Now, cactus paddles or nopal, they have a little bit of a sticky sliminess to them, kind of like okra, but once you cook it, it cooks off. And if you're cutting it and using it in other recipes like salsa or guacamole like we're doing today, it doesn't make that big of a difference. There's a few ways. I have these nopal that are already cleaned and ready to use. There's a few ways that you can prepare your nopal. One way, and I need to grab my knife. One way that you can cook your nopal is you can cut it up into nice chunks, squares, and you can put it in the oven. Now, let's see, I have my notes for the oven. Oh, 425 degrees for about 15 to 20 minutes. You cover them with a little bit of olive oil, salt and pepper if you'd like, and you can just cut them up into chunks and put them in your oven. You can add these to salsa, eggs, lots of different kinds of meals. So that's one way you can go about it. Another way is you can grill these. So you can clean them, put them right on the grill. Something that I like to do also if I'm putting these on the grill is kind of make cactus fingers. So I might spread them out like this, put them out on the grill, and that just makes it easier to cut afterwards, or you can even just tear each finger off after they are grilled. Same with the chunks, you can boil them also, or you can saute them in a pan with olive oil and some spices. Usually just for about 10 to 15 minutes, or until all that little slimy juice has cooked off, they will be done. They'll be darker in color and softer to eat. And if you've never tried nopal before, it kind of has a citrusy flavor to it. Today we are going to use our nopal that I just cleaned, and we are going to, let me see, I have an extra bowl for my nopals. We're going to make our guacamole with it. We're going to make cactus guacamole recipe. So this is just an easy way that you can incorporate nopal into an everyday recipe that you are already making. So we have first 2 avocados halved, and we are going to just smash them up a little bit because we are going to make guacamole. So I have my avocados here. I might actually try to cut these up a little bit to make it easier, but I've cut them, I've peeled them, I've taken the seeds out, and now I'm just going to make some chunky smashed avocado. So we have my avocado here. This is great for the kids to do. Smash it up as much as you can, and I like to still have chunks in my guacamole. So I'm just going to smash this. Great. All right. And now we are going to do about a half of a small cactus. I might use this whole cactus, but if you're new to cactus, a half a small cactus, you can see the size of your hand. And we are going to finely dice this, just like you would red onion or garlic that you're putting in your avocado. We want those small minced pieces. We don't want anything really big or chunky in our guacamole. So I'm just gonna go, we're gonna use our claw, and I'm going to finely mince about half of this cactus. And you might find out you really like the taste of cactus, and you might want to incorporate it raw into your salads or other types of dishes. I encourage you to do more research. We also have a green dip recipe too that incorporates cactus petals that we grill up and that we puree with some other veggies to make a really delicious dip. So I'm just mincing this. Like I said, I don't want any big chunks. I'm gonna cut this the same size as I would the red onion or garlic. And what this is gonna do is, just like the red onion, it's gonna add a nice crunchy flavor to our guacamole, and a nice, again, like that citrusy flavor from the cactus. So I just wanna show you how I've cut this up now. And you can see it is a little slimy, but we have our nice minced cactus right here. And I'm gonna add it to my avocado. And like I said, if you're a super fan of nopales, you might want to add the whole paddle. I have the feeling that I will add the whole paddle just because I really like nopales. I especially like them in breakfast burritos. I will cook them up with some red onion and tomato and add an egg and make a little breakfast burrito with them. So I have my cactus in here. I'm just gonna, again, start, keep breaking down the avocado and mixing it in. We are going to add a half of a red onion already diced. So you can see this is about the same size of the cactus. We're gonna add our onion. We are also going to add lime, some lime juice. So I have my juicer handy. I'll cut this in half and juice my one lime. There's lots of different types of juicers out there. You can use the hand ones that you press directly into your recipe. This is a nice one. It catches all the pulp and the seeds and has a little spout so that I can just pour my lime juice in. We're going to add 1 clove of garlic that's finely minced. Everything is about the same size. We're going to add 2 tablespoons of cilantro. Have my tablespoon here. I'm gonna add this in. Guacamole is just the best, right? And now we found out a new veggie we can add to it. And you can add some hot sauce if you like. I have a small tolerance for spicy food, so I'm gonna omit the hot sauce, but I am gonna add some of the spices. So we have cumin and pepper, and we want a 1/4 teaspoon of pepper and a 1/4 teaspoon of cumin. And I'm just gonna sprinkle in here. And I love cumin. Cumin really gives a nice roasted flavor to the foods that you're adding, and especially with the cactus, this cumin goes really well with our nopal. So going to mix everything up. I'm sure this makes you just want to go to the farmer's market. Also, we have all of these greens here that we got from a great farmer's market, a great farmer at the Oak Park Farmer's Market. And we will be mentioning them in the description as well. Okay, we have here our delicious avocado with our nopals that you can't even see in here. And I actually have this beautiful rainbow chard, like I said, that we got from the farmer's market, and I'm gonna use this as my dip because it's guacamole and anything goes great with guacamole. I'm gonna make kind of a little lettuce chip, and I'm gonna use that to dip into my guacamole right here. And I really do think I will add the rest of the nopal because it's so good. Like I said, this is a great recipe if you have never added or tried cactus paddles or nopales in a recipe before, make guacamole, get a nice little cactus paddle that you can mince and add it and see just how flavorful it can be. I know that nopales can be intimidating because they have the spikes and you do have to do a little bit of cleaning with them beforehand and be careful with them, but they are a great, delicious recipe. We use them a lot in Hispanic dishes. Like I said, I like to make breakfast burritos with them. We grill them. We add them to salsa and tacos, and they're just a really delicious, crunchy veggie. Thank you everybody for joining me today on our Veggie Basics series. I hope that you learned something new today and will be a food adventurer. Thank you.